Alright, so today we're doing a quick introduction to the basic roofing tools in Revit. Tomorrow we'll get into the more advanced tools for roofing. So we're starting here on our level 1 floor plan. We just have a basic rectangular wall design here. And our roofing tools are right up here. In our architecture panel, you'll see the roof option. And you want to make sure you're on the level where you want the roof to exist before you select your roof tools. So I don't want my roof to be on level 1. Let's take a look at my levels first here. Go to my elevation plan. I can see I've got level 1 and level 2, and I haven't spent the time for this particular project to label my levels and put them at the proper heights. You will have. So you'll have a level for floor, and upper level I often will call roof or second level or whatever I want to call that. And I'm going to leave them as they are for now, but I don't want my roof to be on my ground floor level. That's not where the roof lives. Roof goes in the second level here. So I want to make sure I'm on the correct floor plan for where I want my roof to be. So I'll go to my second level floor plan here. And I'm going to go to my architecture tab and select roof. So before I make anything, I'm going to select the type of roof I want to create so I don't necessarily have to change it later. Fortunately for you, in the drop down under properties, wood rafter 8-inch asphalt shingle insulated is already an option for you under roofs. So when you're making your residential roofs, you don't have to change this, and you don't have to make any adaptations. I don't require for residential roofs that you make any changes to this default roof style right here, this one. So I'm going to select that one and use that as my option. I'll notice under my properties here, my base level is going to be level 2, which is what I want. I don't want any offset. And I'm going to leave my rafter level, my rafter cut here is plumb cut. I'm going to show you tomorrow a little bit more of what those changes look like if I make those changes. But for now, I'll leave that alone and make no other changes in my properties bar here. Now, in my light green bar here across the middle, this is my options bar, options for what I'm going to be creating. Before I get started here, I want to make some changes here as well. The primary one I want to work on is my overhang. Most roofs have an overhang. This is how far the roof line extends past your walls of your house. When you go home, look at your roof. When you walk up to your house, look up. You'll notice that the roof extends a little bit past the outside walls of your house. For most houses, that's common. It allows you to walk out of your door and not get rained on. It allows for the water not to go into your walls typically. It just makes the roof a little bit more effective. This is common. 1 to 2 feet is most common. For this particular example, I'm going to go for 1 foot. Remember, dimensions in Revit are feet, space, inches, always, and you don't have to type the inches in the feet. So I'm just going to go 1 space 0, enter, and I get my 1 foot 0 inch overhang before I do anything. Notice also the check for defines slope is default checked here. See that? That means that the lines I draw will define the slope of the roof by default unless I change that. I'll show you what that looks like in a second, but if I leave that checked for all of my lines, the roof I make will be a hip roof. That means that all the walls will be sloped, or all the lines, all the edges of my roof will be sloped. If I uncheck it for 2 of them, I'll get a gable roof. I'll show you what that looks like here. I'm going to leave it checked to start with. We're going to make a hip roof the first time around. I notice I get this draw panel here, which I always get when I create things for the most part. How am I going to draw the lines that define the thing? And my default option that's selected for me is pick walls. It's assuming that I have walls created that I want to put the roof on top of. And if I do, I can just select the walls that I want the roof to go on top of. Click, click, click. And it'll put the roof on top of those walls. I can select other things. I can make a more interesting roof, and this can get very powerful. I'll show you some of those options tomorrow. I can select lines. If I've got, for example, a porch I want a roof over, and the porch has no walls, but it has lines that define it. Maybe I put a concrete pad down. I'm going to select the lines that define the concrete pad. I could select those lines and put a roof over a concrete pad that defines a porch. I could do that. So I'll show you some of these more options tomorrow. For now, we're going to pick the walls that define the outside edges of my roof. Notice that when I hover over these, it's going to give me a dotted line showing where the roof will exist when I click. That's showing me that overhang that I selected. Do you see how that looks? As I click, it puts a purple line. It gives me this double arrow that you usually get. The double arrow is usually there to allow me to flip something. If it's on the wrong side, I can adjust it with that. It gives me a slope icon, meaning this line will define the slope. And it tells me the slope of that line defaults to 912. I'll show you that in a second. Let's click on the rest of them. Let's just make a default roof here. All the lines have to connect. I need to have a fully enclosed object for my roof to be created. Let's click green checkbox. Take a look at my 3D view. And zoom in a little bit here. And there we go. There's my default asphalt shingle hip roof. And while I'm out here, you saw the slope on each of the individual lines as I created it. And I can adjust those as I create them or as I edit them individually if I want individual lines to have their own different slopes. However, if I want to adjust the slope of the roof as a whole, I can do it from here. As I select the roof, one of my options in my properties now is slope. And this is the slope of the roof as a whole. All of my slopes default to over 12. So if I select this, all I have to do is type a single number in here. Let's go ahead and do that 512 slope that we were just talking about earlier. I type a 5, I hit enter, apply, and you can see that 512 slope that we were talking about. And you get a bit of a visual of the difference of a typical 912 slope that we have in this area versus the 512 slope we would be creating for that project. You can see how different that is. Let's go ahead and change that back. And you can see the difference. All right, let's edit this. Edit footprint. Back to my floor plan. Let's change the two end lines to not define the slope. What type of roof do I have if my two end lines no longer define the slope? I have a gable roof. See that? I have that old style roof where I've got open ends all the way through. If I want my walls to actually connect to my roof, there's an option for that. I click on the wall, and then I have this modify wall option up here, attach top or base. I click that. I tell it what to attach to. Come around this side, wall, attach the roof, and now I got a nice connected roof and wall line. There's a hip and a basic gable roof. Tomorrow we'll get into doing valleys, gambrels, and more extensive roof types. But that's how to make your basic roofs, your hip and your gable roof, how to attach your walls to your roof, and how to change slopes. Now, if I go back, let's undo this, and go back to my 4 slope sides here. Again, I can change these slopes individually. So what if I want to change this so that just my ends are low slope? What's that look like? A little different. You can play with these options as much as you want. If the options that you select are uncreatable, if it's impossible to make a roof with the things that you have done, it will tell you, and then you have to make more edits. Right. That is basic roofs for now. We'll get into more advanced roof types tomorrow.